Stat check. Well, these numbers are ridiculous. I mean, I knew absorbing Mother's power would help, and I knew leveling up a bunch on the battlefield would help, but I wasn't expecting this. The reason it's so extreme is that stat-boosting skills like Scander all hit max level from the Mother absorption. Normally, you'd have to grind those separately. I got them for free. The result is that my stats are now in a range I previously associated with Divine Being, rather than Spider, who started out unable to beat a monkey. And yet, the Demon Lord still has higher numbers. I know this because I've been on the receiving end of what the Demon Lord's numbers feel like in practice, and I can tell you firsthand, still out of my league. You know that thing where you're the best player in your friend group at a video game, and then you go online and immediately get destroyed by someone who's put in 3,000 hours? Anyway, that covers the stat situation. Moving on to the actual highlight of this evolution, which was not the stats. The new body. The evolution into Arachne comes with a human upper half growing out of your head, which sounds horrifying in concept, and is in practice exactly as weird as it sounds. I have two brains now. Not quite parallel minds, it's more like I have one consciousness running on two processors simultaneously. Both of them are thinking the same thoughts, but from different perspectives. My spider eyes are still there, level with where my head used to be. My human eyes are now higher up, since the human torso is stacked on top of the spider body. The neck thing alone is worth celebrating. I can turn my head without rotating my entire body. For something that every mammal takes for granted from birth, this felt genuinely transformative. I moved my neck back and forth several times just to appreciate it. Then I looked down. Oh, so I'm definitely female. I mean, I suspected, given that the Demon Lord looks like a girl and she's also a spider-based entity. But I hadn't had confirmation until this exact moment. I flexed my fingers. They moved. I was aware that this was not impressive. Fingers move when you want them to. That's the whole thing about fingers. But I hadn't had fingers in 2 years, and I felt entitled to be delighted about it. And then I noticed that I was smiling. I'm usually pretty expressionless. I was pretty expressionless in my previous life too, which contributed to my general reputation as a socially difficult person. But here I was, smiling naturally, without having to consciously construct the expression. Then I made eye contact with myself. The spider eyes of my lower body met the human eyes of my upper body, and we just stared at each other. My human face looked exactly like my face from my previous life. Same features, just with red eyes now and white skin and hair. The goth look was apparently non-negotiable in this evolution. My feet started tapping on the floor. I was so happy I genuinely felt like dancing. I did not dance, because I have 8 legs and no spatial awareness of how they'd coordinate for dancing. And because also I was alone in a cave, and that would have been embarrassing. But the impulse was there. After appropriately basking in all this, I made a bra out of thread, because I have a human torso now, and some things require addressing immediately. Parenthood. About 30 seconds after I finished the bra, 1,000 eggs started hatching. Right, those. The egg-laying skill produced 1,000 eggs. I'd already used one myself for the revival, so there were 999. And now they were all opening at once, which is something I genuinely hadn't thought through. A few of them contained transplanted parallel minds, basically little pieces of me. The rest were just spiders. "All right, ladies and gentle spiders," I said out loud. Oh, I can talk now. That realization hit me mid-sentence. I have a human mouth and a human larynx, and I can just produce speech, which I'd been planning to get via telepathy because that seemed like the sensible route. Turns out I didn't need to bother, at least not for the basic communication problem. I addressed the baby spiders, confirmed they seemed functional, left them some food from spatial storage, and mentally filed the whole situation under "I'll deal with the consequences later." The parallel minds that hatched would serve as pseudo-parents for the others. Probably. What do you mean? Bad parenting? The ones with my brain fragments know what they're doing. I'm choosing to believe this. One last offering run goes badly. My original goal for the Arachne evolution was to be able to communicate with humans, establish peaceful relations, and in exchange receive food. Specifically, I wanted something other than the spider equivalent of field rations. The local god worship setup was going well for this purpose until the Demon Lord showed up. Point being, I couldn't go back to that town, but I figured I'd teleport to the forest entrance, grab any last offerings left out, and then disappear forever from the lives of the people who'd been very kindly worshipping me. I teleported. The town was on fire. Oat's soldiers were pouring through a broken gate. The town's defense force was fighting them, but the main army was deployed at the battlefield. Whoever was holding the line here didn't have the numbers to hold it for long. The town was going down. What really caught my attention was a separate group, not in Oat's uniforms, attacking the Lord's mansion directly. Elves. The servants' struggle. Mera's office had one job: get Sophia out. His master had asked him. Not ordered, asked. That distinction mattered to him in the way it only matters to someone who's thought carefully about the difference between loyalty to a position and loyalty to a person. The Lord was the kind of man who said please to his most trusted servant, even in a crisis. His mistress was the same way. Mera's office had, for years, carefully contained feelings for his mistress that were well outside the scope of his employment, because those feelings had no useful outlet, and the best thing he could do with them was convert them into excellent service. He'd mostly succeeded. He was not going to let them down. The problem was, the entrance hall had intruders, the rear exit had intruders, and Merazophis had taken an arrow in the back and another through his leg before he made it 10 feet. He fell. He landed badly trying to protect the infant in his arms. His arm hit the floor at an angle that produced a sound he immediately recognized as bone. Broken. He'd broken his arm catching the fall. 4 hooded intruders. Guards presumably down. He pushed his back against the wall, got upright, grabbed his sword with his good hand, and held Sophia in the arm that couldn't actually support her weight without screaming. He was bleeding from at least 2 wounds and trying not to pass out. Then Sophia bit him. The infant had gotten hold of his neck somehow, still working on how she was a baby, and her teeth punctured skin. Blood flow. And then something else happened, something that moved in the wrong direction, like warmth spreading outward instead of heat leaving. The pain from his wounds stopped being relevant. The arm that should have been useless suddenly worked. Strength that he hadn't had a moment ago arrived from somewhere he couldn't name. He killed 3 of the 4 intruders before the 4th shot him in the back again. He didn't go down. The blood on his lips, the blood on his hands, the blood in the air, it hit him differently than it ever had. Like the smell of a wine he hadn't known he wanted. Not repulsive, appealing. Which was disturbing to notice, but he didn't have time to process it. An elf emerged from the direction of his master and mistress's room. The elf was unhurried. Long ears, young face, the particular calm of someone who has decided the outcome of a situation in advance. A vampire. Fresh, so stats still low. He assessed Merazophis the way a professional assesses a mildly interesting problem. That baby is the progenitor, then. The hood on the remaining intruder turned towards Sophia. Kill it. Just tell Oka it got caught up in the battle and we couldn't reach it in time, the elf added to the hooded figure. An excuse prepared in advance. A cover story designed specifically to manage the teacher who cared about these children. Merazophis put himself between the intruder and Sophia. I will not allow you to lay a hand on the young miss. The elf looked at him for a moment like someone re-examining a math problem to confirm the answer they already knew. How foolish. He gathered magic in his hands, and then a half-human, half-spider entity materialized from nowhere and punched him in the face. Worst elf ever. Teleport, then punch. It came naturally. The elf went into the wall. The hooded intruder turned to look at the new development, which was all the time I needed to use cutting thread. Clean, fast, no lingering problems. TAS runners joke about frame-perfect execution. I don't know if this was frame-perfect, but it was pretty close. The servant, Merazophis, according to appraisal, was staring at me with the expression of someone who has survived several catastrophes in rapid succession and is not sure if the current one is still ongoing. I healed him. His race now included vampire. The baby bloodsucker had apparently decided that the situation warranted extreme measures. Babies are soft. I picked Sophia up and considered the cheek situation. Then I noticed the crotch situation. She was a high schooler on the inside, which means she was almost certainly dying of embarrassment, which means the kindest thing I could do was pretend it hadn't happened and hand her back. I handed her back. The elf I'd punched stood up. He dusted off his clothes. He did not appear to have been significantly affected by being punched by me. This was bad information. I tried appraisal. Cannot be appraised. Not blocked. Not hidden by administrator authority. Cannot. Wisdom, which could peer through the Demon Lord's stat suppression, hit a wall here. Retreat was indicated. I started to teleport. You are not getting away. Activate anti-technique barrier. The world changed. Anti-technique barrier. Terrible. It's hard to explain what the barrier felt like from the inside. Everything looked the same. Smelled the same. No visible alteration. But the world had become different, in the way that waking up in a house where someone has rearranged all the furniture in the dark is different. The same physical space, hostile for no visible reason. My teleport evaporated mid-cast. Divine dragon power, battle divinity, magic divinity, cancelled. My constantly active defensive skills, offline. This was different from the Demon Lord's divine dragon barrier. That blocked magic directed at me. This blocked everything. The system, outside my body, simply stopped working. My name is Potimas Harrifenas. Remember it. There is no need for you to introduce yourself, as you are about to die by my hand. Potimas the elf moved at speed. I dodged the first punch. He was fast, but unlike the Demon Lord, my eyes could follow him. Except my body didn't respond quite the way I expected. I got grazed, my cheek cut open from being grazed by a glancing blow. My defense was gone. Or rather, my defense operates on my skin, which is in contact with the air, which is in contact with the barrier. The barrier reaches my outer surface and suppresses it completely. My speed worked better because it operates through muscle, which is inside my body. Stats functioning internally, diminished but present. Stats requiring contact with the external world, gone. Thought acceleration, still running, because it operates entirely in my brain. The barrier wasn't perfect, it couldn't reach inside a body. That was information I filed away. Potimas attacked with a roundhouse kick aimed at my spider head, foot slicing through the air fast enough to make a sound. I hopped back, intended to hop several feet, moved one step, narrowly avoided losing my spider eyes. Close, too close. I tested my skills as fast as I could while keeping him in front of me. Conclusion: anything that affects the outside world doesn't work. Thread, gone. Magic, gone. Anything internal, functional. My scythes weren't magic, so I tried those. Counter after a dodge. Clack! My scythe blade rebounded off his torso like I'd hit structural steel, because I had, as it turned out. The torn fabric revealed skin, and under the skin, metal. Not underarmor, not implants. His body was mechanical. The metallic sound wasn't metaphor. Are you a robot? He was a robot. I grabbed a vase off a shelf and threw it at his face because I had to do something, and my options were limited. It shattered. He walked through the debris without slowing. I jumped over his tackle attempt. 8 legs meant I could assign some to the lunge escape and some to the continued forward momentum, which a 2-legged creature couldn't do, and swiped a scythe across the top of his head. A slash opened across the skull. Metal. Clearly, visibly, metal skull. He got up in seconds. The neck I'd torqued was straight again. He detached his right arm and a gun barrel replaced it. Excuse me? The bullets were fast enough that even with thought acceleration, I couldn't fully dodge in this weakened state. I ran along the wall, ran upside down on the ceiling. Bullets followed me, tearing through my body, and the automatic regeneration that usually handles this was offline. Barrier. Desperate move. I let myself fall straight down toward him. He aimed for the cleaner target, which was my human head. The plasma-like burst of light from the muzzle was not a normal bullet, more focused, slower to charge, which was the only reason I had time to recognize it coming. It went through my head. He destroyed it. I still had my spider brain. The spider eyes and the spider brain were separate from the human half. If one remains functional, the whole system continues. I used the last of the gravity acceleration to punch him in the face with everything I had, with full knowledge that my body couldn't handle the recoil, and I was going to damage myself in the process. His face crumpled inward. His neck twisted sideways. He crashed into the wall. I lost my right arm and my human head in that exchange. Regeneration, still not working. Thread, still not working. Magic, still not working. Evil eyes. Evil eyes operate from within my body. The barrier might not reach them. I fired everything I had. Jinx, inert, repellent, sealing, anti-magic, and annihilating, that last one with the full understanding that it might kill me too. None of them worked. Except one. Warped evil eye attacks space. Not the enemy, the space occupied by the enemy. Which meant I could target the space inside Potimas's body, where the barrier had no reach. I used it inside his right arm. The gun mechanism twisted, warped, and stopped functioning. Potimas looked at what had been his weapon. Now we were even. He had no ranged option. I had no thread or magic. His body was steel, and I couldn't break it by normal means. But I could warp the space inside him if I could get a clear angle and hold it long enough. His body was dense, which meant more time and energy required to twist the target. He'd dodge if I targeted something obvious. I had to wait for him to make an error. The one piece of armor I had left, technically, was the cloth bra I'd made from thread before entering the barrier. Thread created outside can't be controlled inside, and it provided approximately 0 defense. But it was something. We circled each other. Magical Demon Lord Ariel has arrived. Something crashed through the ceiling. The Demon Lord landed between us, arms spread, striking a pose that I can only describe as the opening frame of a magical girl transformation sequence. Except she's the Demon Lord, and she apparently punched through a structural ceiling beam to make her entrance. "Sup, guys?" Potimas was the first to recover. "I cannot use appraisal while the barrier is active. How do I know you're the real Ariel?" "Come on, I'm the real deal. Besides, I don't want to hear that from someone using a fake body. Puppet body. Remote-controlled from somewhere else. The real Potimas wasn't in this room at all. That's why he'd said the barrier would be a loss. He'd lose the puppet, not himself." The Demon Lord kicked the floor, not with skill or magic, just physical force. The building shook. The killing intent she was radiating was the kind that makes everything in the vicinity quietly evacuate. I have high fear resistance, and even I felt my chest tighten. "What were you up to, Poti? Last chance to volunteer the information." Potimas charged. The Demon Lord reached out, almost casually. What had been Potimas? The body I had been struggling against for the last several minutes, the body that had shrugged off my best attacks. The robot frame with the steel skull and the gun arm became pieces. Her arm didn't even complete the full swing. The barrier dropped. Skills, back. Magic, back. Regeneration, back. My head and arm would take time to restore, but the process had started. Potimas's head, the only piece still more or less intact, said, "This body is not sufficient to contend with you either. I'll be happy to do the same to your real body sooner or later." She stepped on his head. That was anticlimactic. I meant it sincerely. For something that had been actively trying to kill me 30 seconds ago, the ending felt underscaled. Then the Demon Lord turned to me and spoke in Japanese. "You there, Little Miss Spider? Or should I call you Hero Wakaba? Truce and its logic." After the Demon Lord explained the situation, former body brain, fully merged now, personality changed. Ariel is dominant, but there's a piece of Hero Wakaba in there. She made her proposal. Her position, she'd killed me twice. I'd come back both times, including from abyss magic, which should have been permanent. Her gut told her that if they kept fighting, eventually she'd be the one who didn't get up. She would rather recruit a terrifying, unkillable opponent than keep accumulating defeats trying to produce one permanent kill. This was rational. I respected it. My position. My eggs had all hatched. The babies were out in the labyrinth with their own minds now. Egg revival requires an unhatched egg with no established consciousness. I wasn't confident I could transfer into an already hatched baby even if I found one, and I definitely couldn't do it from inside a barrier. If the Demon Lord killed me right now, I might actually stay dead, which meant I literally could not say no. "Join forces," she'd said. Not, "work for me." Join forces. Equal footing. We each gained an ally who was the only person we were genuinely afraid of. She wouldn't betray me because she thought I was immortal, and the downside of betrayal was infinite. I could theoretically betray her later once I figured out a way to actually beat her, but I had no pressing reason to do that, and in the meantime, I got the Demon Lord as a bodyguard. Win-win. I took her hand. The servant's grief. Mera went back to confirm. The lord and his wife were already dead when I arrived. Potimas had killed them. Mera had probably known from the moment the elf appeared from the direction of their room. But knowing and confirming are different things, and he needed to confirm. He looked at them. He held Sophia up with one arm and turned her face away with his other hand. She was an infant physically, but she was a reincarnation with a full inner life, and he didn't want her to see. He didn't know she was a reincarnation. He was just doing it because she was small, and he didn't want a child to see this. His face crumpled. He cried. The normally composed man, who answered everything with direct yes or no, crumpled entirely, and he let himself for a moment, and then he straightened. The Oats army was closing in on the mansion. We didn't fight them. There was no point. The Lord was dead. The town was destroyed. Killing their soldiers now would be revenge, and it wasn't our revenge to take. We withdrew. Introductions. Who are you? Fair question from Mera, aimed at the half-spider creature who'd punched an elf through a wall and the woman who had arrived through the ceiling. I am the one and only Demon Lord Ariel in the flesh. And this is the spider your town was worshipping as the divine beast. Mera's attention went to me instead of the Demon Lord. The divine beast? Yeah, I know, right? The Demon Lord said, irritably. The Demon Lord is standing right here. Could we? She activated her intimidation, or whatever she calls the skill that makes every living thing in a quarter-mile radius immediately reconsider its choices. Mera went white. His body broke into a sweat. I am a genuine, bona fide Demon Lord. Nice to meet you, she explained. She'd been chasing me when she spotted Potimas, which she could not let go unaddressed, because Potimas was the biggest piece of shit in the entire world, and she was constitutionally incapable of leaving him unconfronted. It was a coincidence that this helped them. She hadn't set out to be useful. Then she explained the reincarnation system, the accident, the dead students, the god, the soul transfer, and how both Sophia and I were among the results. The attackers are targeting reincarnations, she added. By the way, Shuko Negishi, Sophia said through telepathy, answering the unasked question about her previous name. Then, and I still don't entirely know how to account for this, the Demon Lord started crying. The exchange between Mera and Sophia had been going on for a few minutes at this point. The whole, you're a vampire now and it's my fault, and it was the only way, and I will protect you no matter what you are sequence. It was, objectively, a moving scene. But it was also between a baby vampire and her servant, and the Demon Lord had presumably seen more emotionally significant things in her long existence. Apparently not. Oh, this is too much. Just come with me, you two. Mera blinked at her through the tears she seemed not to notice she was shedding. I'm the Demon Lord, she clarified, wiping her face. Nobody gives you a hard time in my territory for being a vampire. Potimas won't be able to reach you, and we have work to do. The flashback, years prior. I remember when White and I first teamed up. She wouldn't stay dead, no matter how many times I killed her. Then she came back after Abyss Magic, which should have been impossible. So I gave up trying to defeat her and tried recruiting her instead. I lost the Queen. I gained the powerhouse that defeated her. It's been more than 10 years since then, the two of us working together, getting to here. It's been quite the journey. Ariel faced Potimas's machine army, the Taratect swarm behind her, the memories of 10 years functioning as context. You think these little toys can stop me? A new journey begins. The town was still burning. Mera and Sophia watched from outside the forest until Mera looked away first, and then they were ready. All right, the Demon Lord announced. We're traveling to the capital of Sariella. Once we get there, you two decide if you want to come to the demon territory. Trial run. No pressure. It seemed like I was coming along, by passive implication. I didn't have an immediate objection. My goal had been to communicate with humans and acquire better food. My local god setup was destroyed. I had no specific next destination. Following the Demon Lord while she handled Potimas seemed like a reasonable use of my time, and significantly better than going back to the labyrinth to hide. I should lay some eggs somewhere, though. Get those backups replenished. I also thought, briefly, about the parallel mines and baby spiders I'd left in the labyrinth. they'd be fine. The parallel minds were basically me. They could handle themselves. I would later regret this assumption substantially. I had genuinely underestimated how separate from me they'd become, how much having their own experiences, their own bodies, their own decisions, had changed them into something adjacent to me, but no longer the same. That gap would cost me, but at the time I was leaving them to it, feeling mostly okay about the situation. "All right, you guys," the Demon Lord announced to no one in particular. "Lots of work to do if we want to wipe out all of human and demonkind." She had an audience of me, a newly vampire servant, and an infant. "Yeah! Yeah!"